Africans at home and throughout the diaspora. Unity is strength. We got the power.
Stop the fussing and the fighting. Now's the time to do the right thing.
We need more unity. Come.
Stop the fussing and the fighting.
Yeah.
Now's the time to do the right thing.
In the spirit of Umoja, embrace with love.
Start this right off. This is Jamala Rogers, a host of Voices from the Battlefield, and I am pleased to be here because it seemed like there's been some upswings on some positive stuff, but we had a wicked weekend, y'all. Uh, you know, James Baldwin once said, people who shut their eyes to reality simply invite their own destruction. And so you all have kept me as your trusted messenger to say, tell us what's going on, no matter how brutal it is, so that we are prepared for whatever. And so I've been trying to do that, oftentimes feeling like I'm overwhelming you, but you said, go ahead, keep it coming. So as a truth teller, a village mother, an organizer, I feel like my obligation is to not just warn you, but to actually navigate you to a path that having progress that's getting us to that North Star. So remember, I've told you some time ago and been writing about that we should expect an increase of violence in our communities based on the economic situation as well as the repression that we were going to face. And those two together, you're going to see some increase in state repression, state violence, but also violence in our community, which includes domestic violence. So that's violence, between family members, between partners and spouses. And we certainly have seen that this weekend. So I'm going to name some names for St. Louis folks because we know some of these people. But over the weekend, Chauncey Meekins was killed in the shake and shake over what? Onion rings in the drive-through. So she and a couple of other employees were killed. That shake and steak is probably going to be permanently shut down. We also saw Ron Milton, who does the barbecue truck around town, a beloved brother, also known as Big Ron, actually helped in the providing food for the tornado recovery, a drive-by where he was killed and two other innocent people. There was some shootings at Kingsway West. There was two people shot at the Southside Smoke Shop. So now we're starting to see what that looks like in our community. On the national side, we're starting to see a lot of the domestic violence, that is, violence on by partners. So we were hit with the Virginia suicide murder with the former lieutenant governor there, killed his wife and turned on himself. But just recently, and I know one of our guests is going to be able to tell us more about this, but the brother who was a former military person, a history of mental illness, killed 8 kids, 7 of them his own. So this is not getting any better, y'all. It's going to get worse. And so we have to be prepared as a community, not as individuals, but as a community to really address this. So we also know that there's been a downward trend in violence and homicides. And oftentimes the police department will take credit for this and saying that's why we need more. But this has not been that at all. And in places where I know, in St. Louis, I'm very familiar with really those community-based violence prevention activities and projects that has helped to bring that down in the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of cities Black communities use that ARPA money, and where they had Black mayors who were able to divert that money to agencies and community organizations that they knew had been doing that work. And so I say that we did the violence decrease, not the popo, but they claiming credit for it. But now we will probably start to see a rise in that. And I remember a few weeks ago, I testified before the board of all the people here, the Public Safety Committee, that, St. Louis last year had also had a decrease in homicides. There were 139 homicides. But I pointed to Newark, New Jersey, where Brother Raz Baraka is, and they had 31. So here you have a predominantly black community, 31. They haven't had that few homicides since the 1950s. So what is that brother doing? It's not magic. And I keep saying this. It's not magical what needs to be done. People need to have what they need to survive and thrive. And that is decent housing, health care, education, and a food supply, all of those and a decent paying job, all those help in creating stable communities where the violence goes down. And now I think that we have such compression and really people feel like they're in a vice now with all this going on. Those people who have mental health issues now, that comes to the fore. The people who didn't have it now are experiencing episodes, and so I just think we need to be very, very cognizant of what our communities are going through and properly prepare ourselves and them for what's coming, because it's going to get ugly between now and the midterms. I've already predicted that. But I don't want to say that this is not without some progress, y'all, because the fight back is growing as well. So in Virginia, speaking about Virginia, they of course voted that Gary Mandarin, I'm gonna pronounce it right, Gary Mandarin vote was won. And so this is something that Trump started when he tapped Texas and say, give me some more votes so that we win this midterm. Well, immediately California responded. They had a vote. They're now doing the redistrict map that's going to favor Democrats. And so that didn't happen in Virginia. They didn't do a new map, but they said they were going to keep the one that they had, which is fine. Which that puts a lot of pressure on Missouri, which is a red state. But we collected over 300,000 signatures to say that we are not going to deal with the gerrymandered map that the Republicans gave us, because they did a district of the only black congressperson in Kansas City on the east western side made his district come all the way through rural area, all the way to mid-mo. That's the new district for the fifth. Okay, that's crazy. Not gonna happen. Not on our watch. And so we lost in the courts to say that we don't do these gerrymandered maps in between census. There's a time when we used to do that. That was built in. The court said that the legislature could do it anytime they want. Okay, we lost that one. But we still got that initiative on the ballot for November. So stay tuned for that. The other thing is St. Charles beat down their data center. Festus, Missouri, who told those people, their council, we don't want data centers. We don't want it. The majority of people said that. They went on and tried to get a data center. So guess what those folks in Festus did? They ousted half of that city council. So we are not playing, y'all. When we organize, we win. When we fight, we win. So, but you can't be silent. You can't be a spectator. So, and then there's all these efforts to close down or keep citizens from buying these concentration camps. So these big empty warehouses. Now they're trying to scoop those up for the concentration camps. No, folks are in motion around that. So there is lots of stuff happening, and people might feel like it's too late because a lot of damage has been done. But I believe in what Dr. King said. Your own time every time. When something's wrong, this is the time that you deal with it. So there's lots of things going on around us. We feel like we're being sucker punched, but you need to find your people. You need to find somebody that's organized, that's moving, and hang with them. The only thing is, I keep saying, you got your voice, your vote, and your pocketbook. Those are three things you have some control over right now. And so you want to use them to the max until you can't, okay? So having said all that, we got special guests today, and we got a lot to unpack and talk about, because when I think about Black Lives Matter, where do we go first? But Black births matter, and that's real. and that is even being threatened. So when you talk about a battlefield, we know that the health care is on a battlefield, but these sisters are specific to a particular kind of health. And we have today with the Shalese Clay, who's with Uzazi Village, and you've been on before, haven't you? Oh,
No, this is
okay.
my first time.
Okay, so I've been over to your way. And we also have Victoria Royal Williams, who's with Birthmark Doulas from New Orleans, and Shalise is in Kansas City. So you got two people from different regions that are going to be talking with us today. So both of them are new to the show. So welcome to Voices from the Battlefield.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this is an interesting topic. And so I just want you to tell our audience a little bit about the history of doulas and midwifery because this is not a new phenomenon. This is an ancient phenomenon. So talk about that and also talk about the specific work that your different agencies do.
You want to go first, Victoria?
Sure, go for it.
You want to go first?
Oh, you want me to go first? So,
You still gonna have to talk, Celie. So yeah.
Sure.
Okay, Victoria, go for it.
all right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Victoria. I'm here in New Orleans. I'm a doula with Birthmark, as well as a lot of other things that we'll get to. But the origin of the practice of what we're doing is, like as you said, has dated back years from the beginning of the granny midwives. And before then, here in Louisiana, anytime you see water, know that we were here, and they call them sage films, and they came over very very early to help mitigate some of this yellow fever. And a lot of of course, as history will tell us, in midwife, a lot of the babies were alive. Midwives kept the babies alive. And so with that, we have doulas who, this has happened within the last 50 years or so, have come around to the scene. They've always been there as always. We've always had a person, if you think about it, this is a non-medical professional who would sometimes be in the birthing space or to assist families through physical, mental, and emotional help. And so if you just think back to a situation where we had nurses and church nurses and people who were there, if somebody was pregnant, there was somebody taking care of them, right? There was someone who was attending to them very closely. So even though doula is a new word, I won't say it's made up, but I would say it's a new word. Because now they've slapped doula on anything, Sometimes I call myself the tech doula. So people slap doula on anything, but I think that it is a phenomenon and something that's really shown to and proven to have great benefit in the lives of those who are pregnant here and
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, and Shalise, we know that this was a practice that goes all the way back to African villages where you had women who were specific to the village who were the ones who helped. And even I just finished a book called The Zork, who talks specifically about a voyage, one of the voyages to from the Africa to North America with enslaved people, and even then there were folks that were pointed out as women who were helping with the birthing, even on the slave ships.
Mhm.
So this
Absolutely.
But that
thing has
was
got long, long. The arc is long for this practice.
Yes, our
Exactly.
ancestors started this. We were there. So even when we mentioned the term doula, yes, the term may be new, but the work has always been done. Our ancestors, that's how we brought babies into the world. And then when our oppressors noticed that, I think that they really adopted to having what is termed as midwives, raising their babies and helping them deliver their babies. And so we know how important it is. Our birth outcomes were way better when we had midwives and doulas a part of the practice. But, a lot was stripped away from our ancestors during that time because, our oppressors wanted to take over something else. And so putting that medical piece on it really took a lot of the Black midwives away from the actual work, and they had to do it kind of underground. Even, now it's still hard for Black midwives to get into this work because they have so much red tape to go through, and it's unnecessary. We know that the outcomes matter, but of course, we're living in a
What does
society
that
where
really
Black lives don't
mean?
matter.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking when you talked about the resistance, I know I watched the legislature here when the midwives and this was both black and white midwives that were pressing for the the ability to practice. And so they said, okay, first it was all that resistance. No,
Mhm.
no, no, you got to be have this credential and that credential. And then it was so fierce that they said, okay, but now you're going to have to go through this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking that, and of course, even when you have a birthing at home, you still get a bill from the hospital because it's so I mean it's really messed up until you understand having somebody with that expertise, with that commitment, with that compassion right there with you does have a lot to do with the outcomes. And so that makes me want to go directly to like the racial disparities, not just in the medical industrial complex, because we know about those, whether it be heart disease among Black people or diabetes. But when it comes to birthing, most people think that ought to be like a neutral space. Like if you having a baby, you having a baby, and you're. But why is it that Black women have so much trouble birthing in under the system that we have, regardless of their economic status?
Mm.
What's
I,
going on?
It's so much, so many things to unpack here. I think, like you said, the stats are very alarming, right? 3 to 4 Black out of all the, we typically as a Black person only have like 3 to 4 girlfriends, and if 3 to 4 of our friends are giving birth and they all lose their life, like that's a hard thing to even fathom in my own self, in my own community. Just think about my friends who've had children around me. You're most likely to die or have some type of pregnancy related cause, which is very alarming. And so what we've all been trying to say is like you need spaces that feel safe, and we need people who look like us, in these spaces, which it has been dismantled very little, very slowly,
Yeah,
Um,
and a lot of it is preventative. A lot of the
very much so.
reasons why Black women are dying, we're not being heard, we're not being listened to. In their textbooks, it says that Black women, we can tolerate so much pain when we don't know our own bodies. And I think that's a whole nother cause of reason why Black women are dying. And again, I always mention Dr. Charlotte Smith puts it in perspective. Before slavery ended, we were having better birth outcomes than we do now. And that's because we were bred. We were here to work your fields and plow and do all these things. So they wanted you to be cared for. Now it's like, oh, you don't know your body. They send you home. I mean, even recently we had a mom who was discharged. She complained. She let them know what was going on, and yet she was dismissed. Oh, she's just tired. Well, in actuality, after she was discharged, she became preeclamptic and then had fluid in her lungs. This woman could have died.
Right.
And if it wasn't for our RN, who's an IBCLC, doing her home visit, anything could have happened, right? So it's just those are the type of things that keep dismissing that Black women don't know their own body and their own voice. And so, especially when you're dealing with a textbook that keeps perpetuating bad behavior, and that these things are not preventative, then they are just going to continue to do the same stuff. And so that's a big issue and why we are still seeing these numbers at a high rate. And they just don't care about Black bodies. So we can just be real
Period.
on
Period.
this.
And they definitely don't care about new Black babies.
Hell no. They don't care about none of us. And that's the problem. And like you were saying, Victoria, so many things are happening where even the stripped of like what's a professional career path in the healthcare system.
Yeah, yeah.
Nurses are no longer professional. Like that's crazy. You go to all this school, now you're being stripped away from the thing that you put into the most. I don't know. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's compounded with the medical industrial complex, right? You have that on top of all of this. And so you're looking at looking at the healthcare across countries or places or cities where, like in Louisiana, we have, I'm just bipolar. I mean, I think it's like 46%, but 40%, 46%, almost 50% of our hospitals do not have OBs. They're not birthing facilities. So
No.
like, how are we gonna have kids? Like, what is the
Well, and
end
they're
result of that?
Oh,
they
okay, wait,
closed
wait,
so
wait,
many.
wait, wait, back up. Now, okay, now the why? Why is it there's not
Well, they
enough
were
OBGYN
closing.
doctors?
Well, it all started and stemmed from the band, right? So we have the Roe versus Wade, and
Ah,
when that was
Mhm.
overturned, that really limited the way that our physicians could practice safely,
Mhm.
right? Because you don't know, we got whistleblowers. We have a law here where like you could tell on somebody if they assisted someone in a spontaneous event. So um I think that it became such a taboo thing here, and people are afraid, and nobody wants to practice in a place where they are risk of a $500,000 fine or going to jail. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
And losing your license.
And
Hmm.
losing your license, right? Not being able to
Yeah.
practice something that costs you, or almost 6 figures, right? And so
Right, right.
I think our Black families are really suffering in the fact of, like, in that medical complex, you being over in invention, like all these interventions that are happening because interventions cost more money, and more money means that more money they can get out of you, and because the hospitals are losing, they're losing.
I'm thinking a few several years
Oh,
ago. Go
okay,
ahead.
all right. I don't think they're losing. I think it's very much intentional, like everything else is. I think the closures of labor and delivery units are intentional. The fact that
Yeah.
they're now dinging medical professionals, especially providers who are specializing in OBGYN care, are being penalized. You're not seeing them penalize anybody who's working as a doctor who works on the heart. You're not seeing anyone in different parts of medical being penalized. It's only this part of medical that you're seeing this much issue and this much dismantling of a system. It is doing what it's supposed to do. It is doing everything except on a larger scale. And now we're seeing it because we are in this system and we work this every day, right? Because
Right.
we have several labor and delivery units that have closed across Missouri, and it's still happening in other cities and states currently.
Yeah, it
Well,
is.
I was going to say this has been at least 30 years ago when uh, the Organization for Black Struggle partnered with the city hospital here because the rector was telling us that a lot of the women were coming in who had not had prenatal care, so they almost went straight up to when they started having contractions. But a number of these were teen or people who didn't have the support of their family. So we were part of this coaching program. And so we would come and be with them while a real professional was there to help, but just another person. And those outcomes were even different. So to your point, Shalese, just having somebody in the space when you're going through something, it seems like it's joyful, but it's pretty traumatic to the body when you birthing. And so you need to have somebody there that you trust, that you feel comfortable with. And of course, when that director left, they pretty much ran him out on a rail. That program shut down. But I
Right.
told our folks, I said, we still need to remember this practice because we might need it later on. And then we started hearing about all the stuff with birthing, and I said, and then with the tax against safe abortions, and then we live in a state that had a trigger clause. They had already passed legislation. So when Roe v. Wade was overturned, it immediately was going to shut down all of the facilities here. So these people are not playing, but we tend to be reactive. But I was telling folks we may have to go to the old underground way that we used to do stuff and still have our babies. And I don't care if they don't have birth certificates. They need to. The first thing is to do a live birth and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and they come into space where they're going to be taken care of. So it seems like we're at that space because I'm just thinking about all the people, women that are dying or their babies are dying, and there does not seem to be much to do about it except for people like us. So how do we amplify the voices about the health care of women, particularly pregnant women, during this particular time in their lives?
I
Yeah.
think having these conversations, being able to have places like, we both come from basically the same work. Our work is a little bit different on just like the things that we offer. I think knowing about what's in your community to help support you through your birthing experience is really necessary because we know how important having a doula is. And right now we have so much pushback in the healthcare systems that the more that we can come together and have spaces for families to feel like they have an advocate behind them will help. But there needs to be more lights on us. And unfortunately, I'm gonna speak for myself. We don't get any federal funding, which I'm absolutely ecstatic about because it allows us to be able to say and do and move how we know is best for the people we serve. But at the same time, it's like we are still this little pearl in a shell, and a lot of people don't know that they have access to us. And so, that's why having conversations like this so we can broaden our reach is helpful because we want people to come and get the help that they need and know that we're here to support them.
Yeah, and I
And
always say,
Victoria, you all have had the Black Birth Matters series, where I think that's one of the ways that you try to amplify what you're
absolutely,
doing there. Tell us
absolutely.
a little bit about that and what's been the response of the community. And I know
Yeah,
for New Orleans, they got a lot of stuff going for them, including trauma still from Katrina.
yeah.
What inroads have you been able to make?
Well, I think that we always usually say no one should birth alone.
Hmm.
With the lens, under the lens of Black Birth Matters, it has also become not just a mantra, but also a movement. And through that movement, I've been able to not just take it started in New Orleans, but we've been able to take it regionally because we want every community to feel like they have somebody, they have a space where your advocates have been working. So I always say it's not a birthmark show when we go to these other regions. It's a community show. It's about how our other advocates have been fighting for the cause of Black birth. And I usually think of it in a way of not just Black birth, folks Black birthing bodies, but more around ideas, communities, situations, solutions. Like everything about Blackness, we matter, right? We matter. We started all this. Who of all this? Us. Period. So I think that we've been able to really create a movement behind it. And this year we're celebrating 10 years, 10 years of that movement. And we're doing a big thing. We'll be in Shreveport. Shreveport has some of the worst birth outcomes in the state of Louisiana. They're on the border up there, very close to Texas, and they don't get a lot of play. And like you said, New Orleans is okay. We're not great, but we're okay. We got, we could find some nooks and crannies where some resources are. But just the key is that through our work, we've been able to increase our reimbursement for doulas. Um, and we have doula reimbursement now. And so now everyone gets to have access to a doula. Um, Now listen, the pay ain't always great for
Yeah,
the
I can only
doula.
imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
But and for organizations like Birthmark, where we have a sliding scale, where we're able to pay our doulas very well because we're a collective, we're able to pay them the market rate, and we just kind of absorb the cost of what the insurance is paying us. And it's been a great movement. We've been doing some good
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I take the Harriet Tubman approach. She didn't care or they didn't care who the president or nothing was. The movement still went on. That's how I will move. This underground and
Okay.
this movement will still move with my shoes
Right.
on the ground until, you know, I say otherwise or
And
somebody.
and there's a number of folks who are trying to fill that space. I mean, even here, we got Jama, and there's places all over the country. Now, is the Black Mamas Alliance, is that the overarching thing that people belong to, or is that a separate organization in and of itself? Like,
Oh,
is
that's a
there a
separate
national
organization.
doula thing that all you all belong to?
No, doulas, we do not have a governing body. We are independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm just thinking about if there was a national organization, kind of like the AMA or whatever, you all can
Yeah.
benefit from your own experiences,
Exactly.
share resources and that kind of thing. So
They do have a
I'm
governing
most
body. I mean, they do have a like the National Doula Association, but you don't have to be a member of that. It's
right.
not
No, I'm talking
something
about
that's
for the
like
Black doulas. Yeah,
right.
because
Yeah,
they got a different. They provide a unique experience
exactly.
for
Yeah,
birthing.
exactly.
Um, you made me think about what happens when you want a doula. Because after I went to Shalese's their space, I said I'm gonna try to sneak back in here with a wig and a fake tummy so I can get some of these services and get some of that good smelling food they're cooking in the kitchen.
Absolutely. That's
So
beautiful.
what happens if I say, and I'm a real pregnant woman, and I
Hmm.
say I want a doula from you all? Tell me what happens from there on. So Shalice, you start first, and then Victoria.
Okay, so our what we have here is called a cohort. So Hakima, who is one of our four founding sisters, started this Afrocentric model. So you come in, and a part of the village experience is we have a plant-based chef who's going to feed you and your family and your partner. You get to see our RN, I'm sorry, our nurse practitioner, and then our certified midwife. On top of that, you're able to see either our RN who's an IBCLC and get connected with them. Then we have some doulas who do the doula education in-house and can help you with your birth plan. We're building out a new model, so then we'll connect our students directly with the participant, because we call them participants. They are also able to come and get therapy services, and they're also able to do chiropractic services, and everything is for free. So we really want to have a place for you to come. You're here for about 2 hours, just depending on, some people hang out longer than others, and we really want to make sure that way we give you the whole Afrocentric wraparound care model. And it's not just one thing with a doula, but you have a whole village behind you.
Yeah, and there were also some brothers there when I came in, so
Oh, yeah.
they
Yeah,
get
we
a
have some
chance to get some,
brothers.
yeah, get some,
Yes, we
yeah,
are so inspired to have our dads, especially me. I started a program called Dope Black Dads, and I'm bringing it over to Uzazi. And I think that just having more male representation, because we know that parenting is different for every family. We got some co-parenting, we have some separation, we have some together parent, and we have some situationships, and we be real about it. But at the end of
right,
the day, your partner deserves to have a voice and be in the space with you. And so we want to make sure we offer those things to the fathers as well, our
yeah.
partners.
So Victoria, if I come into the space over there at the Birthmark, what can I
Mhm.
expect?
Well, we are a collective, so you can expect a collective of doulas. Taking care of you from the rooter to the tutor, as they say. But when you come in, we do an intake, and our intakes are no free of charge. We just want to get to know our clients a little bit better, and then you'll be matched with a doula that kind of fits your background and looks just like you, speaks your language. We have a very diverse background of doulas that are on staff, and then from that, everything is encompassed. It's a full package. You get childbirth education classes that are either virtual. If we have a little package that you could look at it on your own, or you can come in and do our in-person class. We have one of the only freestanding lactation clinics in the state of Louisiana. So we have an IBCLC on staff. You're able to get like a true diagnosis and help, as long with home visits from our CLC staff if birth both prenatally and postpartum. Um, and so a lot of our other programs really extend to the entire family. Like our advocacy lane is really about, making sure that our families feel supported and seen inside of policy, as well as their own experiences. And so we do a lot of reproductive justice. That's really our framework, and like pushing policy and pushing movements that really affect the entire unit. So we're happy to have
So
anyone
so
who
what
comes
if
over.
so what if I'm in my first trimester and I said I can't have this baby, I don't want to have this baby. How do you all deal with the folks who want abortions, who don't want to go through that birthing process, as beautiful as you all are making it seem? Do you have connections or a resource, do recommendations, certain ones that you send them to? How does that work? Or do
I'll
you
Mhm.
say,
or do you
yeah,
even do that?
I'm gonna let Shalena talk on that one.
listen, I'm just going to say, listen, Uzazi Village wants you to have your choice be your choice. So I'm not here to judge
Absolutely.
you. I'm not here to, defer you from what you want to do. I think that we don't necessarily have anyone directly that we can connect you with, but we will help you make the best and safest decision for yourself. And that's really up to the person. I mean, we believe in women's rights and it's your choice. At the end of the day, my staff knows we are coming from a non-judgmental place, and that comes with not just someone who wants to have an abortion. We have same-sex families that I'm trying to reach. We have people who may not look like us we want to reach. At the end of the day, we want to make sure it's safe and that you're okay. And then if we need to follow up with some therapy services, then we will do that. But I personally, we are not here to tell you what you should and should not do with your body.
Exactly. Yeah. And
And,
of course, Louisiana is a little sticky because we have a lot of abortion bans and laws and on medications. And we even have a thing where doctors won't even see you before 12 weeks. So there are a lot of different stipulations and really blocks where our families feel trapped in their pregnancy, but you're not. There are resources. We do have people outside of the states who are able to connect you with services. Not saying that that's what we do, but we will definitely hook you up with what you need.
yeah,
There's a
and of
lot
course, all of this between families is totally confidential. So yeah, so you don't have to worry
absolutely
about your stuff being out there in
no.
the ethosphere. But the other thing I'm thinking about is I'm seeing a number of more and more, and so I wonder, is that better for you all when there's more of you in different places, or does that mean like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe we need to zero in on this? Look how they're growing. I just recently read where they're getting ready to build a doula center in Chicago from the ground up, brand
Wow.
new.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, and then also next month we'll be doing the Nova. reproductive justice conference in Chicago. So
Mhm.
so people are looking more and more at these alternatives to going into these hospitals that are anti-black. They you can't afford it. They give you patch you up and send you somewhere else. So I'm thinking this is going to be the place where women want to go if they're conscious. They want to go to
Absolutely.
a center like this first. So
Right.
what does that mean as these centers start to really grow and become popularized by the communities? Is that a good thing? I'm talking
I
about a
think
good
it
thing
is.
for you, for the community, but
Right.
how will you all deal with the assaults that you might feel later on?
I think from a business model standpoint, as a doula, you can only see maybe two clients a month, three if you're pushing it. That's just if, they're kind of
I
in
hear you.
different time frames, right? But it's work for everybody. Like we
It's worth
all
it.
out here, it's work for everybody. I don't think that it's a threat to anybody's. I think that we should do more. We should cover more ground. There is not enough of us um, to really make a huge dent in this maternal health crisis that we're in.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think that, one thing I will say that I feel like we just have to be prepared for, and I just had a conversation, people who are feeling some kind of way that we are supporting Black births and Black bodies and, coming legally with lawsuits that are frivolous. But the more that we can come together and support each other from state to state will just help us as we are building out. Because I know that there are other people like Jamal Birth Center. They have affiliation with Uzazi. I'm sure that if I ever had someone who needed to move to Louisiana, I can reach out to Victoria. So the more we are
Absolutely.
intertwining with each other, the more we can support. But I don't feel like there's a competition. I think this is a crisis that we're just trying to figure out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I say threat, I didn't necessarily mean internally. I mean
Oh
external, like from the government, like, whoa.
Well,
And like
yeah.
you said, like, okay, you all only dealing with black mamas, DEI, let's
And
get
we've
them.
had those
no.
questions too. And we always say that, we accept anyone. We prioritize the Black experience though, because we are a Black led organization, at least with 80, what it is, 85%. We got about two of them inside. But, I
And,
think that
and, and
is,
Victoria, you all have a multiracial staff as well.
yes, we do. Absolutely. Multiracial, multilingual, multi experience. And I think that it's not just about, but people get caught up on the language. Like, because I say I prioritize Black experience, don't mean I'm just saying that I only see Black people.
Right.
We're saying that the Black experience is on the forefront of our minds, and that's where our care comes from, because we know that the Black experience has always been ignored, dismissed. So our care comes from that model. Like, we're not going to do those things. We strive not to.
And so I think people would be curious as to how you all can afford, have access to all of these services and for free. So you talked about the reimbursement process, and then
Yeah.
Shalese, you talk about you all don't get federal funding, which I know the cons and pros of that, because I would say I want my tax dollars to pay for a
Absolutely.
doula,
I know.
but I understand all the red tape. So is the reimbursement coming from insurance companies, and do you have to fight with them for reimbursement?
It's been a lot. It's been a lot. It's a new process. I think it's so weird to see this process, unfold, because they knew it was coming. You write the laws, you look at the legislation, we give you a year or so before it kicks off, but you knew it was coming. And so just all the different stipulations, a lot of red tape. I think the great thing about Birthmark is that we hold all of that for our doulas. Our doulas don't have to do anything but show up to their birth. And that is a benefit of being a part of collective, that we do all the red tape. You don't have to worry about that. The only thing you need to do is be registered with our doula registry board, just basically saying that you want to accept insurance. We've also done a lot of advocacy and trainings around how do I become credentialed with the particular insurance company. We've advocated for, we don't need all these different, we're not doctors, we're not medical professionals. So whatever vendor system that you use for non-medical professionals, you need to try to work that into this process. We've got a lot of checks. So I mean, they're panning out, they're coming, the money is coming. And I'm very appreciative to have our doula registry board, which I'm the board chair, and our insurance companies really come to the table and listen to us and hear, we don't need these barriers. We want to just serve the people. So it's been great. We also do not take or accept federally funds. We're a LLC, we're a for-profit, and we have a fiscal agent. And so that's been very beneficial to make sure that we continue our mission of having a sliding scale process and services
Mm.
for everyone.
Yeah. What about the liability part? Because I would think that insurance companies would, who are insuring your agencies, would say,
Yeah.
"Oh, wait a minute, you don't have all these credentials. What if something happens?" Blah, 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 blah.
I know, and we get that all the time. And like I tell them, we are not governed by anybody. We are a regular vendor. Whatever you do with your regular vendors, I think that's how you need to approach
Yeah.
this process. So some of them do like sometimes the private insurance really want you to have some type of liability coverage, which is could be expensive, or some type of causal, insurance coverage. It could be very expensive, but for a collective, we cover you under the collective as a member. So it's just
Wow,
a benefit.
that's amazing. Because I'm thinking about even my own personal OBGYN doctor that I had before I got rid of all the essential parts. He ended up having to get out of private practice because of the insurance kept
Yeah,
going up and up. And not that people were suing him per se, but they were suing folks in his industry, and so it got to be too cost prohibitive. And I just think about folks like you all who are very much connected to the community. You're not some kind of, big conglomerate that can cover those kinds of expenses.
absolutely. And most times, doulas, this is our second job. This is not our first job. But that's another benefit about being in a collective. We make it your full-time job,
Yeah.
just because you now become a full-time doula within the org. But we do have contractors. This is not their first, you know, um income or sustainable. So we're trying to do
Right,
our best to make it sustainable with the insurance coverage, hopefully.
right,
And see,
right.
we don't even do any reimbursements. I really try to stay away from that. I know that we have two different sides. I think Missouri is 1650 and Kansas is 1450. Being in this work for over a decade prior to stepping into this role, I just knew I didn't want to have to deal with the red tape of trying to get reimbursement back. So we did get some state reimbursement for some things, and that's how the M Center has been free. And we know we have to shift. So having a small fee attached to the cohorts is a direction we may have to move into, where we are. But that will also allow us to be able to still see the families, because if you look at really how much time they see with each of our providers, from the top down, you're getting $100,000 plus worth of services for free. And even when it comes to doulas, like, they are so underpaid. It doesn't make any sense that we have people who are filling in the gaps when we didn't create it. And I'm sick of hearing how the system is trying to invest in all this stuff, infrastructure, and so be whatever here, the stadiums and all this crap, but you're not investing in people in poverty. It doesn't make any sense. And until that is addressed, we're going to still see these doulas working multiple jobs and trying to get to 2 births a month minimum. And it's crazy because y'all created this mess and now you want us to fix it. Well, kind of fix it. They
As
really.
Black women have often done, fix the mess,
Absolutely.
fix the mess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, how do you all have a certain amount of time that you follow your clients, or
I
once
mean,
they birth in, you sort of wrap it up and say thank you and hope
no.
you do well?
I
How
have
long do
clients for
you?
life. I have clients who they second
Okay.
birth, they call me, right? They third birth, they call me. They reach out, see if you're still available. So it becomes like these are families. One of my clients is my best friend right now. Like this is
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
I mean,
And
of
I
course, your
suppose that
contract,
each one, yeah,
yeah, your
tell
contract
somebody else
says a
they
certain
know too.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
contract may say a certain thing, and this is not the case for all doulas. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. But a lot of times, your clients become family. They become an extension. I see some of my babies just walking around. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, you're already 3 years old. This is
Or going to school for the first time.
or going to school, and we get those
Yeah.
pictures, we get those
Oh
follow-ups.
yeah, yeah.
And I think it's just when we fought so hard for our midwives to get only 95%. That's all that the OBs would allow them to get that's the ceiling, 95% of their same pay, right? Because they felt like, they were taking money out their pocket. And it's like, no, midwives, they spend more time with the clients than a physician. And you see in 15 minutes, you see 4 people. Sometimes
Right.
our midwives only have like 2 to 3 clients that they're really focused on in a day, but you see
Right.
50. So there's a huge difference
Yeah,
in the work
yeah,
that we do
yeah.
in the
They
same amount of
literally have an
education.
assembly line, Victoria. They have an
Right.
assembly line, right?
But the education is comparable. Midwives, some midwives have to have 10,000 hours of clinicals. Do you know how long that takes? Being a full-time mom, a full-time whatever, go to school, it's a lot. Go to work.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
midwife
yeah.
has went through it, and then you see in births all time of night. You know, we in Missouri, so we get the snow.
Right.
So and she saw a lot of people in rural areas, so she could finish her certification. So it is a challenge, to get to get your certification to continue to do this work. And the midwife, she also has her own business outside of Uzazi, so she is able to do home births at a discounted rate for families, which, going back to what you were saying earlier, a lot of people are leaving the healthcare system, Western medicine, to have these opportunities. And it's more affordable. You have a safer and a healthier birth outcome. You get to do what you want to do in your birthing experience, and it's not limited. And I think that a lot of people are just saying enough is enough. We are sick of dying. We are sick of not being heard or seen. And coming out of Black Maternal Health Week, one of the films we showed for paternal health was the Aftershock film on Hulu. And it really talks about these Black fathers who lost their partners after childbirth. And it was all preventable. And so, leaning into making sure that we are sharing these resources is so important, because we know the impact that it has on families, and they are tired. We are tired. So, especially even I'm not for sure about you, Victoria. It's like having doulas now being pushed out of the hospitals. It's so crazy. It's just a bunch of mess, which is unnecessary. And you really have options, and you don't have to just stick to this. Go back to our ancestral roots, and let's take back our community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take it back.
But
Because home birth
you
is actually
make,
legal here. So
Yeah,
you can't have a home
oh,
birth.
wow, wow,
You can have a
wow.
in like a birth hospital birth, but you can't have a birth home birth.
um,
See how they make you stay tied to the system?
yes.
But Shalise, you talked about the person who's with Uzazi that was also going to rural areas, and I think about that and wondering if at some point some of those women are going to be reaching out because
They
they are having their clinics
They
closed
are.
down.
And
Those hospitals are closing down.
she's
Yeah.
meeting everybody. A lot of her clientele, matter of fact, I was yelling down there because she's making me a plate right now, is in rural communities. She was seeing a lot of the Amish families, and still does, because
Oh,
the need is great. The hospitals are not there. So what's the next best thing? And a lot of times people do not have the opportunity to drive 30, 45 hour way just to have a birth. And then the risk, that's crazy. And a lot of these hospitals are pushing more cesareans when they don't need to, which is also putting women at risk. And it's all because you want to do it around your own schedule. No, let's stop
right,
scheduling
right.
this stuff. It's unnecessary. I had
Yeah,
Somali women who were like, this baby gonna come in 50 weeks, so we gonna wait it out. And they will thug it out until it's time for them to get birth.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but
yeah.
people going back to the cesareans, in the event that you are, when you was talking about a person who you're going through an abortion, what do you want? They were like they were cutting these people open, giving them cesareans because they did not want spontaneous abortion on their charts, that this person
Wow,
had a miscarriage. So they were making them have C-sections, which is this is we've seen this trend, right? We're seeing it nationally that is
wow.
happening because people are so afraid. Our doctor and they're just so afraid. So go home, stay at home. I always say labor at home as long as you can. As long as you
Right,
can.
right. As long as you can. And also the whole notion of this is the thing that's made me really start promoting and amplifying like the doulas is because in our community we've been told that we're having so many kids, but the birth rate for Black folks is way,
Real
way
low.
low.
It's
And
very
some
low.
of this is related to the birthing issue. And so, come on, people, let's not believe the hype. We are dying at childbirth. That's why their birth rate is
Right.
low. And I know some people are consciously choosing not to have kids,
Yep.
particularly the Gen Zs. I mean, they tell me they
Yeah.
ain't having no kids. It's too much work,
Mhm.
too much. They're too expensive. But and I appreciate that because I want people to have kids who want to have kids because
Conscious.
we used to celebrate the joy of childhood, the joy of bringing a child into the village, into the family.
Mhm.
And now that's hardly the case. I mean, it's so much drama and trauma
Well, I'm just gonna be
with
truthful. I feel like for me, and I'm a grandmother, another recent grandmother of two now.
Congratulations.
It's hard for me to have been excited about her having a baby, and she's
exactly.
pretty healthy. She never really had both. She became preclinical with the first one. She was 19. Now she's 22 and having her second baby. And it was just like everything, the trauma we went through it. Basically, my trauma story was her trauma story. My mom's trauma story was my trauma story. And it's like, it's not necessarily a celebration. And I can understand why people were more reluctant because they know that their lives could be in jeopardy by choosing to have a family.
Yeah.
And we want to celebrate, and it is great that we can eventually. But even now, they're saying what now is it 3 years? It was two. Now, recently, I just heard it's 3 years that they really want to monitor a woman after she gives birth. But unfortunately, what we are now seeing, and I'm not for sure about Louisiana, but Missouri was always behind on data collection for infant and fetal mortality. So we would say 3 years, we would give that was our current data, right?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
now there's no obligation for them to even collect that because now the laws have changed. So now we probably won't know unless some whistleblower is going to keep tracking and let people know, no, this mom died today. This is the reason why, blah, blah, blah. Because right now we are not at a point where we're able to even get current information to really see what the numbers actually are. It is just whatever you want to put out there if we even get that.
Right. And our
Right.
clientele right now is between the ages of 32 and 43. So like,
Wow.
if you look at the numbers, that is still very alarming because they're probably educated, middle class
Yep.
individuals, and those are people who are very concerned about their pregnancy and they want to know all the things. And they're even in our practice and in our I was going to say something else, but even in our practice, we just let them know that like there are some things we can't talk about, and it really hinders with the work that we do. They need to know about all those things, and
Mm.
openly, there's some things that we can't talk about, and that's really
Well, you
hard
need to come
for.
over here. We gonna do a little
Exactly,
sideline
exactly,
back door. Hey, go talk to Shalese and them. They're gonna tell you
exactly,
something. You gonna come back to
exactly.
me, and then we gonna go from there.
Right, right. I
Yeah,
mean, because
yeah,
that's actually what the doctors here have to
Yeah.
do. They have to go out of the state to learn about abortions and then come back. They have to spend a six
yeah.
week rotation out of the state. So look, it's
And you
just
do what you have to do, and you
stay at
have to,
home.
in order to meet the needs of the community, you may have to do some of that readjusting underground stuff. It's sad
Exactly.
to say,
Absolutely.
but what it is, what it is. But I really, really, really appreciate the work that you all are doing for Black mamas. And I know that there was a global Black doula day. I didn't quite know what that meant. Did y'all connect with all the Black doulas across the globe?
And we get a hootie hoo, caca. Shout out
Right.
to them.
Think
That's
it's
so
a
sweet.
recognition that they everywhere. We everywhere. We
We're
all over.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking time out for to talk about this to people because I think this is pretty much unsung and unheard and like under a little bush, that little candle under the bush, but we need to like magnify the experience of Black mamas, and I know you all have testimonials on your websites. So tell us what the websites are, and I'm gonna say Shalese is in Kansas City and Victoria is in New Orleans. So what's your websites that people can go to and get more information?
Birthmarkdoulas.com. And we're on
Oh,
all the
that was
Instas,
easy.
Instagram, Facebook, Birthmark Doulas. Yep.
And ours is uzazivillage.org, and we're across the board. Also, TikTok is, listen, go check out. We got marketing and social media people over here. Corey is super dope. We are all platforms, but that is uzazivillage.org because I know a lot of people are like, how you spell Uzazi? So,
Ooh.
yes,
Just
please
the way it
come.
sounds.
That's the way it sounds.
Yeah. So yeah, so we need to, put a pin in that and make sure that we know about it. So we may not need it for ourselves, somebody my age, but we're working with young people and folks who may say, well, I don't want to be in a hospital. Where do I go? We need to be able to say, I know just the place for you. And now I know. And just so people know, we are in a cohort together, and so we are supporting each other. And so it's not that I'm doing doula work here, but all of our efforts as a community come
It's
together
kind
under
of
this
hard.
cohort that we're in. So
We're
so
doing
we're very we are resilient leaders. That's our
yes.
network, and so we are going to support each other and lift up the work that we do and celebrate the work that we do because it's so important. Uh, Only thing I want to say, y'all, is that this is going to be on my website, JamalaRogers.com, if you missed it. Right now, the video portion is on the YouTube channel, but some way my webmaster is going to try to pull them all together. So if you didn't get to hear all of this or you missed the previous one, that's where it is, JamalaRogers.com. And there is one event that I'd like to plug, and that is the Black Men Read that's going to be this weekend. If you have particularly some young folks that are into reading, take them to this event so they can see some black men that have been authors or they're going to be reading so that you get a love for reading for these kids very early on, because if we don't know how to read, we going to miss out a whole bunch. And that's going to be at the Schlafly Library in the Central West End this Saturday from 1:30 to 4:30. They're going to be reading to the kids. These are black male, and from the pictures that I saw, they're all good looking black males, and so take your kids there. Male or female, you got a male child, take them on there so that because reading, man, I'm telling you, our kids are drowning right now because they can't read, and we need to do something more about that. So I can't say enough about reading, y'all. Y'all know that because I'm a writer and a reader. So yeah. So I'm going to sign off now. Thank my guest again. This is Jamala Rogers, your host, and I will see you on the battlefield. Thank you for listening and thank you for signing in with us. Be safe out there, and
Great.
hopefully I get the music going. But if not, we just going to sign off. I think I'm gonna have to add the music later. It's acting a clown today. It's acting like Trump, like the clowns in the Trump thing. So yes, y'all, it ain't functioning. It's dysfunctional. But hey, be safe, and we'll see you on the battlefront. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got to do it right. Stop the fussing and the fighting. Right now, right now. Let's do it right now. We don't need to fuss and fight. We've got to do it. We got to get it right. We got to get it right. Let's do it right now. We don't need to fuss and fight. We've got to do it right. Stop the fussing and the fighting. It cries for freedom. Let's do it right now. We don't need right now. We don't need stop the fussing and no procrastination. Right now, the time to do the right